Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel From Me to You. My name's Keir Smith, back today with another video. This is part 2 of me counting down my favourite albums from the years 1963 all the way through to 2023. In part 1 I chose my favourite albums from 1963 to 1993, so this video focuses on my picks from 1994 to 2023. Part 1 was a lot easier to do due to my love for all things Beatles and Pink Floyd. But my selections for 1994 to 2023 are a little bit more varied. And with that said, let's get to the list. Okay, to start the list for the year 1994, I'm going to go with the Manic Street Preachers, The Holy Bible. And this is a full-on, blistering assault, full of punk fury and heavy themes like anorexia, prostitution, the Holocaust. It's not for the faint-hearted. Thankfully I'm not. I think it's an incredible achievement, an artistic triumph. My second pick for 1994 would have definitely gone to Pink Floyd and The Division Bell, which is a great album. Voodoo Lounge by the Rolling Stones came out in 1994, Grace by Jeff Buckley, Monster by R.E.M., The Second Coming by the Stone Roses, Parklife by Blur, Definitely Maybe by Oasis, Brutal Youth, a lesser known album by Elvis Costello, which I like a lot. All great albums released in 1994. Okay, my pick for 1995 may surprise some, but it's an album that I continue to go back to time and time again. I loved it back then, I love it even as much now. The Great Escape by Blur. There's just so many different styles of songs on this thing, and 15 tracks in total, and it's fantastic. Of course, this album was dwarfed by the sales of Oasis, What's the Story, Morning Glory, but it's infinitely more interesting than that album for me. And I must say, I did play my brother's copies of What's the Story, Morning Glory to death that year. I was firmly in the Oasis camp. Elsewhere you had Different Class by Pulp, a fine album, Stanley Road by Paul Weller. Britpop was in full swing and I loved it. On to 1996, and I'm going back to the Manic Street Preachers for Everything Must Go. This is a fantastic album, start to finish, not a bad song on there. And this is my signed copy by the remaining 3 members. Richie had disappeared by this point, but the band fought on manfully to produce this masterpiece, and I got this signed by the band in 2003. I met them in London, Oxford Street HMV, and they were promoting their Lipstick Traces album, their B-sides album. On to 1997, I really liked the self-titled album by Blur. Paul McCartney released a great album with Flaming Pie. It could have easily been Oasis Be Here Now. Even more so, it could have been Urban Hymns by The Verve, but the crown for 1997 goes to Radiohead for OK Computer, an astounding piece of work. One of the best albums, if not the best album, of the last 25 years. On to 1998, and I'm going back to the Manic Street Preachers for This Is My Truth, Tell Me Yours. And many would disagree, but I actually think that this is a better album than its predecessor, Everything Must Go. And the Manic Street Preachers are my favourite band of the last 30-35 years easily. The best band since the Smiths for me. Also released in 1998, and special mention for Pulp's This Is Hardcore, a much darker follow-up to their brilliant Different Class album, but I actually think it's better. On to 1999, and I'm going to go with Beck Midnight Vultures, and this album is as colourful and as crazy as the cover looks. There's the back cover. And this is Beck as you've never heard him, singing in these high-pitched wails. Some people have commented that it's a bit of an homage to the work of Prince, and you can definitely hear that in the songs, but it's brilliant in its own right. You've got to hear it. On to the year 2000, beating Radiohead's Kid A by a whisker is Oasis, Standing on the Shoulder of Giants, which is my second favourite Oasis album. I love this thing. 10 tracks, bar the song Little James, which stinks the place out really and should never have been on the album. This is a fine album. I love all the other 9 tracks on there, especially Where Did It All Go Wrong, Gas Panic and Roll It Over. And yeah, it's an album I come back to often. 2001 brought another great album by the Manic Street Preachers. I'm going with Know Your Enemy. Not quite the commercial smash that Everything Must Go and This Is My Truth, Tell Me Yours were, but again, 16 tracks, hard hitting, great lyrical content. I love it. On to 2002, I'm going back to Beck for the beautiful Sea Change. Now this was very much a breakup album and done in such a heartfelt and beautiful way. Great songs and an album that you can really immerse yourself in. Brilliant. Another album released in 2002 which I think deserves special mention is the brilliant debut album by The Libertines, Up the Bracket. I loved that when it came out. In 2003 we had Reality by David Bowie, which I think is a fine album. We also had Hail to the Thief by Radiohead, but they both miss out to Say You Will by Fleetwood Mac, who are reduced to a four-piece here. No Christine McVie, but that allows the vocal and songwriting talents of Lindsey Buckingham and Stevie Nicks to shine even more, and they do, with a set of incredible songs. 18 tracks here, but never a dull moment. Absolutely breathtaking stuff. In 2004 there was an album by The Streets, A Grand Don't Come For Free, which I think's a great album, something completely different from my normal musical taste, let's say. The Libertines released their self-titled second album in 2004, that was really good, but my pick goes to Ryan Adams' Love Is Hell. And I still remember very vividly listening to this album in the back room at my mum's house, laying on the sofa, listening to it through my headphones, and the last song finished and I woke up and I said to my brother, that's the best album since OK Computer by Radiohead. In 2005, Sufjan Stevens released Illinois, an album I only came to recently, but that's really good. X and Y, the third album by Coldplay, I really enjoyed that. But my pick goes to the evergreen, the Rolling Stones with A Bigger Bang. Rock and roll at its best. 16 tracks, so many great riffs, great guitar solos. Jagger is Jagger, sensational. The band are fantastic throughout this album, I love it. On to 2006, I'm going to go with Dave Gilmour's On an Island, and there's just a lovely peaceful sway about this album, very relaxed and soothing. Great vocals and guitar work as you'd expect from Dave Gilmour, but it also has the vocal talents of Graham Nash and David Crosby too. Beautiful stuff. For 2007, In Rainbows was a fine album by Radiohead, as was Magic by Bruce Springsteen and the E Street Band. Paul McCartney, Memory Almost Full, was a really strong offering by him, but my pick goes to the long awaited return by Eagles with The Long Road Out of Eden. 19 tracks, a double album, essentially covering everything that's great about the Eagles, which is great. In 2008, Coldplay released what I think is their best album with Viva La Vida, Death and All His Friends, and Oasis released my favourite album by them, Dig Out Your Soul. But my pick goes to Paul McCartney and Youth with Electric Arguments under the moniker The Fireman. And there's so much to like about this album. There's blues rock, lo-fi acoustic ditties, there's straightforward indie pop rock, there's psychedelia, dance, trance. It's quite something. On to 2009, I'm going with Journal for Plague Lovers by Manic Street Preachers, and this was a brave move by the band. They took lyrics from Richie's old diaries that he filled in when he was in hospital before he went missing, and they used them as lyrics for new songs that they were making. But that combination proved a masterstroke. This is a brilliant album. People say it's like the Holy Bible Part 2, and I can see why they say that, but I think this album covers all facets that make Manic Street Preachers a great band. A really strong album. In 2010, High Violet came out by The National. I really like that. Collapse Into Now, R.E.M's last album, came out in 2010. A really good album, but my pick goes to Arcade Fire's third album, The Suburbs. In 2011, Bad As Me came out by Tom Waits. I really like that album. Different Gear, Still Speeding came out by BDI, Liam Gallagher's band after Oasis. But my pick goes to his brother, Noel Gallagher's High Flying Birds, the debut album. It's a really good album. In 2012, Lonerism came out by Tame Impala. That's really good. But my pick for this year goes to a golden oldie, The Beach Boys. That's Why God Made the Radio. Great songs, great melodies, great harmonies. Everything that's great about the Beach Boys. Fantastic. In 2013, we got the debut album by The 1975, which is an album full of great songs, but another album full of great songs that year was Paul McCartney's New. You Can Call Me Bias. I think this is fantastic. I listened to it again recently. So good. My pick for 2014 is a clear standout winner. I would go as far to say that this is the most perfect pop album since Michael Jackson's Dangerous album in 1991. 2014 goes to Taylor Swift's 1989 13 songs, pop-tastic, so melodic, so catchy, absolutely brilliant. Now, I must admit that in the last 10 years or so, even more maybe, I've pretty much switched off, musically speaking. I don't listen to the radio and I'm not really aware of what's out there and what's good or what's deemed to be good even. So it's pretty much slim pickings from here on out. But there's always the old faithfuls to see you through, so 2015 goes to Noel Gallagher's High Flying Birds, their second album, Chasing Yesterday, and their best in my opinion. 10 tracks, not a bad song on it. For 2016, I'm going with Black Star by David Bowie, a truly brilliant David Bowie album, released on his final birthday, his 69th birthday, the 8th of January 2016, and he would pass away 2 days later on my birthday, believe it or not. And I think that Black Star is a top 5 David Bowie album. I think it's that good. The beats, the rhythms, it's a heavy album, and the lyrical content, of course, David Bowie's singing basically about dying. Talk about staging your own death. Typical Bowie, really. Brilliant. For 2017, again, slim pickings, but I'm going to go with Noel Gallagher's High Flying Birds and the third album, Who Built the Moon. Again, just really good stuff. They developed the sound a bit. It goes in a few new musical directions. Good stuff. For 2018, I'm going with The New Kings, my current favourite band, the 1975, with their third album, A Brief Inquiry into Online Relationships. This album is stunning, and I'd say that they were a pop rock band, but with something to say. They're forward thinking, they've got great ideas, great music, and brilliant lyrics. 2019 was slim pickings, and I could have gone with Lover by Taylor Swift, which was a really good album, but I'm going to go with this one. It was a really interesting album, and it was recommended by a guy called Elliot Roberts, who is famous on YouTube, and he said, stop what you're doing and go and listen to this album. So at that particular time, I stopped what I was doing and I went and listened to Wise Blood, Titanic Rising, and she's got a beautiful voice, and it's a really interesting album. Different songwriting, and it took me by surprise, and pleasantly surprised I was. 2020 saw the release of Folklore by Taylor Swift. McCartney came back with McCartney 3, which was really good, but I'm going to go with the 1975, Notes on a Conditional Form. The band let everything hang out here across these 22 songs. They cover so many different styles, probably as many styles as covered on the Beatles' White Album, let's say. It's a breathtaking collection. 2021 was again slim pickings, but Paul Weller released a really good album with Fat Pop. He never fails. 2022 saw the release of Midnights by Taylor Swift, one of the few albums that I bought and really liked. Another really good collection of songs by her. I really enjoyed that, but I'm going to go again with the 1975 and Being Funny in a Foreign Language. My least favourite of their 5 albums, but enough good stuff here to keep me happy. And finally for 2023, and again, there wasn't too many albums that I picked up last year, but one album I was eager to pick up and one album I've been enjoying ever since is the Rolling Stones' Hackney Diamonds. Fantastic. And that's it. My favourite album from 1994 to 2023. Part 2, done. And I'd just like to say a big thank you to everyone who watched part 1 of the video, my favourite albums from 1963 to 1993, and thanks in advance to everyone who watches this video. I appreciate your time and I hope you enjoyed the videos. And of course, I'll see you for my next video very soon. Until then, peace and love. Bye for now.